Check. Okay. We are live, people. About to go live with Big Sam here. He'll be joining me shortly. It is just after noon on the Midwest side of things here in Central Time. I actually have been awake for about 10 minutes. These things happen. I'm guessing Sam and I will go a little deeper into big media, legacy media, new media. I want to ask him some questions about what the average IQ is of a prison guard, maybe, and some other fun stuff as well. So I got my sugar-free Rockstar here. Not too many B vitamins because you can actually go into toxic shock if you take too many B vitamins. What's up, Dolly? Let me just get this lighting better. Okay, that's a little better. Thanks for joining, y'all. Fixing my hair because I know that annoys some people. I'm growing it out because I think I'm going to donate it to Locks of Love at some point, but it's not going to be for a while. But without further ado, people, Big Sam is in the building. Oh, look at this. We're both wearing pink.
Fucking pink.
I love it.
Cheeky get.
Only real men wear pink. I had a shirt that said that. You know,
is that right?
Let me move this screen. Yes, sir. And
how we doing?
I'm doing well, man. I actually woke up pretty much right before I messaged you. But these things happen, you know, and I'm glad we got to chat again, Sam, so soon. It's always fun to chat with Big Sam across the pond here, live from the Midwest to Yorkshire, England. And Dolly, of course, is in the building. The ever-present Dolly.
Pinky and Perky.
Yeah, she's always tuned in.
You don't know who Pinky and Perky is, do you, Mr. Addy Ads?
No. What is she referencing?
People of mine and possibly Dolly's age. You have to be careful with women's ages. You know what I mean? It was it was like a show with two cartoon pigs in it, Pinky and Perky. It'd probably get banned. It'd probably get banned now for some reason or other. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's one of those shows that are actually funny, huh?
Well, you know, it was for kids of a certain age or whatever. You have to excuse I always end up sort of slouching in the corner, but
yeah, we're
not here for posture advice, are we? We're here for a bit of banter.
For sure, yeah. And if you need to adjust anything, Sam, to get comfy, feel free to do so. Actually,
listen,
Jane,
I'm laid back. Can you see me well?
Yeah, I can see you. What I'm doing is I adjust my my window, and I actually made it so my webcam is so I'm looking like right over into your eyes, kind of, because before I was kind of looking up.
At the minute, it looks like I'm looking at you through a car windscreen in a storm.
Oh,
you know, wow. It's like quite blurred.
Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's a bit trippy.
You're a little bit blurry, and I'm almost positive it's my connection, Sam. And I am getting, I don't know if you've been keeping up with my Twitter updates about my internet connection, but I am getting it
you're not happy,
upgraded. No, it's really slow. I'm getting it upgraded today. Actually, the tech guy should be arriving here shortly. So when he does, I think my brother's going to let him in. So by tonight, I'm hoping that my internet will be much faster because that's just going to make everything go a lot smoother. You know, talking to you. Okay, you're a little clearer now, so that's good. And uploading videos, of course, as well. But we were talking. Oh, and I found, Sam, I thought I was going crazy because like sometimes I will have dreams and then I'll like think that they happen in real life. But I found the guy, Mr. Ads, that you Ads, the pseudonym that you used
Oh yeah.
in your book, and he was an Asian lad, I guess, and it was you only wrote about him for like maybe a couple paragraphs here, but you spelled him
Did I
A
get on
D
with him?
Z.
Did I get
Let me.
on with him?
It sounds like you did, yeah. Let me just pull it up here, but yeah, I also had some other slang too we could talk about as well. But last time we left off, we were talking about the media and critical thinking as it pertains to the media as well. And I was asking, I was actually going to ask you if you know what the average IQ of a prison guard is. Do you think?
Is that in America, worldwide, or England?
Sure, all three. Let's go all three.
What is the average IQ for a normal person? Do you know?
100.
Is that just somebody who's gone to high school, passed a few exams, that sort of thing? Because we need
That's a
something
good.
to reference it to, don't we?
Yeah, that's a good question. Shout out to my moderator Quadrex, who's in the
Yo,
building.
Quadrex,
Um,
good lad.
I think it's less so to do with your credentials, right? Because I think some people are obviously, gifted,
Yeah.
but then it's something you can improve too. So, there's probably, people out there who don't need to, if they didn't go to high school, they'd still get, 100 or
Okay.
so on
Give
the
us the
IQ.
average IQ.
My guess?
Oh, don't you know? I
Well,
thought you got some figures.
oh no, it's 100. By definition, it's 100. But as far as the numbers, I couldn't tell you how many people that entails. But I don't know my IQ personally. But yeah, the average IQ is 100, and I believe it's something relative too, so it's always changing. Like there's this.
So what is it for a prison officer?
My guess would be like 86.
Cheeky get. Right. Do you know what a get is? Right.
No, what
Let me
is
tell
that,
you.
Sam?
Let me tell you now. I would take somebody with a low IQ and fantastic interpersonal skills over someone with good qualifications any day. Any day at all, mate. Going to the people I work with, yeah, the prison service has over the years changed its requirements. Yeah, it's had a similar process, but it's changed its requirements. And having been part of that process, like I've told you, where I worked, did a couple of weeks at the assessment centre, which is all you need to get a look of how the prison service works. At any one time, they could employ or choose not to employ anyone they wanted. Yeah. So even though you've got a selection process, they can choose not to pick someone or to pick someone, like I've said. So the process
Yeah,
itself
so
is
they
very flawed.
can kind of admin drop people based on
Yeah,
anything, really.
yeah. If they
Yeah.
didn't like them, as an assessor, if I didn't like somebody, I could fail them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting little story. This when I was at the assessment centre, like I've told you before, you have people doing role play, and we were upstairs watching video footage of people reacting to the role play. Yeah, so you would make an assessment. You could tell the people who got something about them. Yeah, he was actually an officer I knew from the private sector who had his assessment or them 2 weeks I were there, who would have failed if I hadn't been there. Yeah, because he came across his performance was terrible. So I actually said to a couple of the lads, look, you know what? I've worked with him. He's not a bad lad. I've worked with a lot worse. So he actually got through because of me. So we probably cheated a little bit there. However,
So it sounds like he was a good guy, but he just was lacking a little bit of skills to start with.
yeah, on the day he was poor, really poor. And he wouldn't have made the selection. So, that in itself is flawed for me. It should just be an interview process. a medical, fair dues, do a medical, but an interview process, or maybe several interviews.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this either, but that's something that they do or they can do too with like the Navy SEALs when they go through buds. I've been watching this documentary. I may have mentioned it to you,
No, I've
Sam.
been watching over the last 2 days a couple of
Yeah,
documentaries on Navy SEALs.
really? Which ones, Sam? Which ones? You know
Um,
the name?
no. The document. Well, it's not exactly a documentary. It's a guy on YouTube who is an ex-Marine who he looks at footage of like training, documentary footage and comments on it. So you
Okay,
actually,
cool.
yeah. So he was on about one or two people and where they were at and stuff like that, and how it works. And basically what he said was, if you're having a bad day, it doesn't necessarily take you out of the game, as it were. They'd rather someone sort of struggled to the end and got through the day rather than someone who was head and shoulders above everybody else and it was easy
Yeah,
or whatever. So they were
yeah.
looking at that sort of thing.
Read a bit about that too, and you should send that channel over to me if you could, Sam, later, because it's something I'm really interested in.
Yeah,
But
I'll tell you it's good because you've got a real military guy assessing. He assesses various training, Foreign Legion, English
mm,
Marines, Paras, British Army, foreign armies, special forces, Russian special forces. It's really good because you get a good look at different training throughout the world with his sort of professional comments. Because he was like, he was a career soldier. Uh, he was a Marine for years and years and years. So it's just good to see how different forces train or whatever.
yeah, it's really interesting stuff, and I'm still unsure. I may serve, like one term or not, like 3 or 4 years. I'm undecided, but regardless, it's something I find really fascinating, just how they train. Because
Are you
the
considering
military,
going in the military?
I might do reserves or something at some point. I'm not really sure if it's something I would commit to. I mean, it's definitely not something I would choose as a career, but you can do the reserves quite easily as a second job on the weekends here in the States. I don't know how it works in England, if you can do that or not, but yeah. And
As
then
a
Dolly just
reservist?
mentioned, yeah. Like my dad did that for the Air Force,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing my uncle might do that after he's done it with active duty. He's in the Army, but and I got a couple of people like my cousin. He's in the Army too, so I got a couple of people who are in the armed forces in my family. But yeah, Dolly just mentioned actually Chris Thrall, who I did an interview with, former Royal Marine.
Yeah, he's a nice
But,
guy.
yeah, good guy. Really, his crazy life experiences. But
Yeah,
something I didn't realize either is they can just drop you, like you said, Sam, for pretty much any reason they want, even if you are good enough to make it through the training. And
yeah.
like you said too, they would take a guy who's not as talented but has that kind of work ethic over someone who's very very talented but maybe isn't as hard a
Poor
worker.
attitude or a poor
Yeah,
attitude.
yeah, and Tim Kennedy said this too. He said you actually want to be the gray man. Like you don't want to be the guy who's the best at everything because
No.
they do their job like to kind of smash that individuality out of you,
Yeah,
and put team first, right? But this um, documentary that I'm referring to is called Buds 234, and I can send it to you, Sam. It's
yeah,
really
definitely.
phenomenal. It's about Buds class, which stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, which is what the Navy SEALs go through, and they all have to pass it if they want to be SEALs. And this is the training that involves Hell Week, right? Which is 5 days of I think they get 2 hours of sleep the whole time, and
Yeah,
it simulates combat and wartime, right?
yeah,
And it's just so motivational because you see all the guys, the guys who make it and the guys who don't, and some of the guys who don't, they can actually analyze, like I think they have the self-awareness to analyze why why they don't make it, and some of them just don't own up to it too, which definitely see that they don't admit that I just didn't want it that bad, or I don't have the skills right now to do that. So it's really interesting to see that pushing people to their absolute limits and see how they react.
It is, and I remember asking Chris Troll. There were two lads who I went to school with. Yeah, one was my best mate, Terry Webster. The other one was called Sean Ryan, who I got on with. They were both, when you were doing cross country at school or sports, they were always the one that were in the woods having a fag and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The sort of dropout types guys. And at 17, they both joined Royal Marines and were like career soldiers. They were the least two likely lads I would have expected to go that way. So it just shows you, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy how, the military can bring that out in people. But I found that section here, Sam, that talks about ads, ADZ, and I'll just read the excerpt if that's okay, and then hopefully it'll
Yep.
ring a bell here. So one relates to ads. An Asian lad I'd shared friends and associates with in Sheffield.
I can tell you about it now. That's all I need. That's all I need. I can tell you about it now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So let me tell you now. He was a tough lad. Him. He come from sort of come all from Bradford way, Pakistani, Muslim Pakistani. In Sheffield, our paths might well have crossed. We had mutual friends. When I was on K-Wing, it became apparent that he had friends who were my friends, and some of his friends, and maybe we'd been at parties that never crossed. And I was also in on the door of a nightclub talking to a bouncer one night in Sheffield. It's called the Niche. Rough nightclub, really rough. Sort of badass music, loads of fighting and that, and trouble. But everyone loved it. Everyone used to head there. And I was on the door one night, and there was a bit of a kickoff with these Pakistani lads, and they all come back with shooters. Like, I don't know, maybe 20 lads with pistols and that, which is unusual for our country.
Yeah, right.
You never
In the
normally
US,
see
it's like
guns,
whatever.
on the street, but me and him were pretty much, we got on well. He did a big sentence. He got about 10 years, and he came back to Strange Ways just before I left. And I remember, like I've said to you, if I was doing overtime, this time he was on B Wing and I was on B Wing, yeah. And the staff weren't very friendly. You'd go on to make the numbers up. They'd try and give you all the jobs that nobody wanted to do and that. Yeah. They were dead lazy. If they were making a brew or something like that, they'd make one for themselves, but they wouldn't make one for you and that sort of thing. So, I just go and find somebody like him. His name was Ali, I can say now. His name was Ali. We got on really well. He was one of the lads who was telling me about, some of the issues with dispersal prisons, long-term prisons and stuff like that. But like I say, he was coming up for release, and he said, his family had backed him. He was married, so this was his last chance. When he got out, he got to move away from sort of the old scene and friends or stuff like that, because if he got done again, he was looking at a big sentence, and his family had already said they would wipe him out or whatever. But
Yeah, and you mentioned that in the book too.
Yeah, he actually got pulled. The last chat we had on B Wing, he got pulled by some lads. They came up talking in I don't know what they were talking in. Not English, yeah. So they come up like, so he just says, hang on a minute, Mr. Samworth. So he walked off and chatted to these lads. And I sort of got the gist of the conversation. And I says, are they having a go at you because you're chatting to me? He says, yeah. He says, you know, shouldn't be chatting to screws and stuff like that. I said, and what did you say? He says, I told them where to go. He says, you know, I'm my old man. I'll talk to who I want to speak to. So he actually told them that he'd rather talk to me than them. So there you go. But yeah, you know, I've met people like that in prison who you could have crossed paths. You know, I could have ended up like him quite easily. You know, if I'd have made the wrong choices or things like that. So yeah, and I
Yeah,
never knew that we use that alias though, Mister
yeah,
Addy Ads.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy that you did that ADZ because I've actually spelled my nickname like that before, but typically I do the double D,
Yeah,
which
definitely.
which is interesting. But what happened with that night at the club? Do you remember when they came back with the guns?
Yeah, I think somebody got shot. There was a, a girl actually, bouncer. I worked with a few, and I think that night she had bought they used to wear stab vests at that nightclub. A lot of bouncers in Sheffield started wearing stab vests, but at that club they all used to have vests. They buy their own vests, and one of my friends had sold her a good quality military bulletproof vest stroke stab vest, yeah. And that was the first night she wore it. And somebody shot her, you know. So I think I can't, I might be exaggerating. I'm sure she ended up in hospital with like a couple of broken ribs or something. However, she was alive. If she hadn't worn that vest, she'd have, you know, probably been seriously injured and at worst died. So yeah. But do you know what? In Sheffield back then, shootings and that did not get a lot of publicity. It's not like America where there's lots of shootings. So if there was a shooting, it would have been big news. But they tended to keep it very low key. So I don't know whether that ever got out that, but yeah, there you go.
Is
So
that just because they don't want people to freak out or bad for business type of thing?
maybe bad for business, maybe both, mate. I don't know. You know, because it's not a good thing, is it? It's like sensationalism type thing, and we've already discussed that. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's where we're at. So free free thinkers. Yeah,
Yeah, we left off on that last time.
I guess I've started following a lot of people from watching Joe Rogan because he has a lot of people on, doesn't he? He'll have people with conflicting views on, and you know he has your sort of Jordan Petersons, your Ben Shapiro's, your Dave Rubins, who are all coming from different angles. You know, some work with facts and figures and that sort of thing. So I just like getting different points of view. You know, letting people. Cameron Hayes, our Sheffield native, and screw Sammy Boy. Friendly stalker addict, Sam. I'm not a. Yeah,
What's a
Dolly.
bunny boiler, Sam?
Hey,
Bunny
did
boiler?
you not see it? A bunny
Yeah, what is
boiler.
that?
Have you not
I
seen
don't know what that means.
the film Fatal Attraction?
I have
Oh,
not.
you're such a young right. A bunny boiler is like a stalker. There is a film
Mm.
called Fatal Attraction. Yeah. So Michael Douglas is married. He has an affair. The woman he has an affair with turns out to be a nut job. Starts affecting his life, threatening his family, and he comes home one day, him and the missus, and the pet rabbit is boiling away on the stove. Yeah, exactly. So stalkers and crazy people they call bunny boilers. Yeah,
Okay, okay, gotcha. I actually think I've heard that reference before. I can't remember the
yeah,
actress's name, but yeah, in an interview. But yeah, so you were saying Joe Rogan, and I agree. He does have fantastic guests on, and to be honest, that's really the only reason I listen to him because I don't think he's the best interviewer. I think he just talks too much, and He doesn't let certain people speak. Like Eddie Bravo. I love Eddie Bravo, if you know who that
Yeah,
is.
Eddie Bravo is
Oh,
a
he is
funny guy.
fantastic. He is so great. But
He's off with the fairies, that lad, isn't he?
off with the fairies. I got to use that
Yeah.
at some point. But yeah,
Yeah,
he has his own podcast too, which is great because he goes deeper into his kind of his theories and conspiracy ideas
yeah,
and all that. But yeah, if you want to go deeper into Joe Rogan, because yeah, he has a lot of great guests, a lot of A-listers,
yeah.
intellectuals, businessmen, and women and academics.
Have you seen Joey Diaz on it?
Yeah, yeah, Big Joey Diaz. Yeah, he's got his own show too. That he's got that classic New York or New Jersey Italian accent too.
He honestly doesn't give a shite, him, does he? Hey? He don't care. He just says it how it is. He doesn't think.
Mm.
He says it how it is. It's like, if you want to watch my podcast, fine. If you don't, do one. But this is how I am.
And I think that's why he's so attractive to people,
Of course he
and
is.
they like to listen
Honesty.
to him.
Yeah, honesty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially
Honesty is the
nowadays
best.
in the
Honesty is the best
PC.
policy, mate.
Yeah, and it
So,
took me a long time to get to that, but go ahead, Sam.
no, we were going to talk about free thinkers, which we have. Watch Joe Rogan, guys. Plenty of free thinkers on there on every subject known to man. What else were we going to speak about? There was something you wanted to ask me besides the ads bit to do with
I
prison.
have a couple of Uncle Joey's a friend of mine. I have a couple more
Uncle
British
Joey.
slang. British slang I could ask you about if that's cool, Sam.
Yeah, fire away.
Handy for the bean counters.
Handy for the bean.
Yeah, were you referencing politicians? I think 245. I'll read the whole sentence so we know.
Yeah, put it in context.
Okay, so I dare some will call that ageist and sexist. For me, it's just common sense. What are they arguing for? The right to be battered senseless? Handy for the bean counters and politicians, that isn't it?
Yeah, people who they're ticking over. It's like a reference to sort of, well, it's a nothing job, but these people are important decisions, aren't they? But they're not helping anyone. Counting beans don't help anyone, does it? Hey? So it's sort of referring to them really as, they're just like pawns in a game of chess. They're not really helping or contributing, but they're in a privileged position. So,
so they kind of have jobs that just kind of take up space in the machine, right? They're just cogs.
And they get well paid for doing them jobs as well. So yeah, just like bean counters, aren't they?
Okay. I got you. And I got another one. When I found the kid, he was down in the chapel with Henry, the prison chaplain, around 6'3", a gentleman with glasses and white hair. Henry looked like Captain Birdseye, only not as weathered. In the nick as with IMB. In the nick as with IMB. What is? I couldn't figure that one out.
IMB is a independent monitoring board. Yeah, they're now called the Board of Visitors. They're volunteers who go into prison. They're supposed to be there for prisoners and staff. They have their own complaint system, so they'll follow up complaints. Prisoners can ask to speak to them. They'll usually go around segregations and healthcares, checking on the welfare of people and things like that. I met some lovely people, IMB, and then it was BOV, Board of Visitors. But for me, a good deal of them were just like busybodies, nosy Parkers. They'd meet some of the high-profile prisoners, and you just knew, like I've said before, that when they were having the dinner parties, it'd be like, oh, guess who I saw today? I've been talking to so-and-so. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you mentioned that with Mark Bridger too.
Yeah, like Mark Bridger, yeah. You
And
know,
I
it was
love
like, oh,
the scene that you
Mark
kind
this and
of
Mark that. You
yeah,
know,
I don't
um,
understand that. I really don't, and like how the nurses too, or at least one or two nurses were kind of just attending to him, you know, in a certain way.
but
But I love how
most
you painted one scene. If you just and I'll let you go, Sam. When you kind of just lost your cool and you just scared the living shit out of him, and you're
oh
like,
yeah, with the
you,
razor blade.
yeah, and you just told him not to fuck around anymore, and he just kind of
Yeah,
shat his
yeah,
pants a little
yeah,
bit there.
yeah. It was quite funny because my manager, who was lovely, who didn't take no shit, you know what I mean? She was a proper nurse, a caring nurse, but didn't take no shit. And she come in, the moment she spoke, she knew she dropped a bollock because she went, you know, Mr. Samworth. When she says that, it's when she's being serious. If she'd have come in and said, Sam, have you got a minute? She come in, Mr. Samworth, would you go and have a word with Mark Bridger? So she gave me the paper. She didn't say anything. I looked in it. I looked at the razor straight away because it was wrapped in tissue with no blade. Fucking hell, I was steaming, man. Do you know what I mean? How dare he sort of take the piss? And she knew when she give it me, she hadn't, don't get me wrong, she hadn't dropped her bollocks, but she knew I won't be having a quiet chat, you know, um, which I didn't. I basically like booted the door open. I just had enough of him, like trying to play people and pathetic, his patheticness. End of the day, he
Yeah.
willfully took a young child, a vulnerable young child, and killed her and did God knows what else. And I wanted to punch the shit out of him. So
Yeah, you
yeah,
called him pathetic to the core.
yeah, definitely. So,
Mm.
but you know, afterwards, got to understand we had a professional relationship, but we were good friends after. So when I'm done, I obviously slams the door like shut or whatever. And as I'm walking off, I heard her say, you know, sort of huffing, yeah, thank you, Mr. Samworth, sort of thing like. But you know, he got the point across. He didn't take the piss no more. So yeah, you know, I did have my moments. I could be the world's most patient man. I was thinking the other day about a young lad. I hadn't thought about him for years. When I was on K-Wing on the Twos landing, yeah. Twos landing, we just had 4 landings on K-Wing. We had a landing that was like a basement where the servery was and the gym, yeah. So that weren't a residential landing. There were no cells on that landing. They were just office space. So you come upstairs. So we had 3 landings: the twos, threes, and the fours. Just called twos because it was a second landing, threes because it was third floor, and fours because it was the fourth. But on that twos landing, we had a lot of cleaners. We had a lot of bad lads, and we used to keep some of the lads who were mentally unwell. They weren't necessarily, you know, they didn't need necessarily to be on healthcare because a lot of mental health people, you know, they live in the community. However, we had them on the twos landing because the staff above us and ourselves could keep an eye on them. You know, there were some self-harmers and people who generally might have been poor copers or victims of bullying. So we kept them on that landing so we could keep an eye on them. So this young lad, he'd always been, he'd very rarely been on healthcare, but he stopped taking his meds and he got really unwell. The problem with people with mental health is when they're doing well, taking the meds, yeah, they think they're okay, they think they're normal. Quite often they'll stop taking the meds. And if you can't persuade them to carry on taking their meds, they can become quite unwell quite quickly. So he'd been on healthcare a couple of weeks, refusing his meds. He got to the point where we got in an emergency section. So this particular day, he was going to hospital in the afternoon. Yeah. However, for a couple of 3 days, he had been. Well, there's various ways of saying it, but shall we say he had been spreading excrement on himself and his cell walls. Yeah, it wasn't willful. He was unwell. So this particular day, I spent, I don't know, best part of 6, 7 hours talking to him through the hatch. Told you on the healthcare, we used to have a hatch we could drop. So when they were really unwell, we could still pass things to them, like the meals, without necessarily opening the door and putting staff and themselves at risk. So he was pretty much naked, covered in shite. I gave him a sandwich at dinner, and he took his sandwich apart, filled it with excrement, and then proceeded to eat it. Yeah, not pleasant. Anyway, like I said, a couple of hours in, when you stood there, the smell's horrendous. But after a while, it goes. You can't smell it. People coming onto the unit will smell it, but I couldn't smell it. Anyway, I managed to persuade him to have a wash in his sink. He got pretty much no clothes on. He took all his clothes off, got him to have a wash, get most of the muck off himself, and put some clean clothes on in time for the staff to take him to hospital. Because obviously he's going to be cuffed to someone and he's going to be in a prison van in order to go to hospital. So I stood there for probably 7 hours watching him eat shit, cover himself in shit, and God knows what else, yeah. But the point I'm getting to and why I remember it so well, that I had no problem with that. One of my friends come halfway through the morning and said, "Do you want me to talk to him?" And I said, "No, I'm fine. I wasn't being an angel or whatever, but I was getting on well with him. He was going to hospital that day. The member of staff who were taking him to hospital come on the unit. So I'm stood with one of my managers. She's a mental health nurse, so obviously she's quite upset because he's in a state, there's no part of eating your own shit that is normal. Yeah. It's disturbing seeing people in that state of mind. So I'm stood with my manager. She's trying to get him to take some diazepam, liquid form, which is just it had just made him drowsy, to have made him calmer. Because obviously I'm telling him he's going to hospital, so he's getting a bit panicky. So this member of staff come on. I never liked this member of staff. From the stories I got told about him back in the day, one of these, going cells, knocking shit out of people for no reason. Part of the brutality of the prison system, which I would have never been a part of, mate. I couldn't have worked then. Yeah. 80s, 90s, whatever. I couldn't have worked under them conditions. And that's just me. So, but he came on and he said to my manager something super derogatory like, we shouldn't have to take these fucking retards to hospital. Something like that. He stinks. It's disgusting. So I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. I looked at her, my manager, I knew, and she gave it him. She said, this officer stood here for 7 hours talking to this guy. He's got him to have a wash, got him to put clean clothes on in order that you have a bit better trip to hospital with him and he's a bit calmer because they have to take him anyway. It's their job. And it's just sometimes these people are just so, so cold. But that lad, I'd seen him a lot in prison. I'd seen him in Forest Bank. I'd seen him at Strange Ways on K-Wing. And just, again, a couple of weeks, 10 days, a couple of weeks of not taking medication. He'd gone from someone who could cope in prison to, strip naked, covering himself in excrement and eating it. They go that quick. So,
yeah.
He just come to mind the other day. I forgot about him. And I can remember all these guys' names as well. Like, it's mad. It's mad how it comes to you. But there you go.
It reminds me of another section that that I read in your book, Sam, and I'll get to that in a second. Just going to go over some comments here. Sassy says that you can count my beans, Sam. And
how rude! How rude!
Quadrex has a question.
Right. Officially, it's from Friday in England or Britain that you have to wear masks to go to the shop. So I haven't worn a mask yet. But yeah, it's happening. Apparently, Everybody's going to be wearing them or whatever. And if people don't wear them, they're going to get fined. I don't know how they're going to monitor that. But like I said, Mr. Addy Ads, I do an online shop now, and I go to that local farm shop. And I've been today there. They're lovely people, and it is very civilized. People give plenty of room. They've got it well organized. So I'll just carry on same as I am. I won't be going to supermarkets or anything like that.
Yeah.
But Friday is D-Day.
Yeah, I read too online that big stores like Target are making people wear them, or you can't shop there. I think starting in August sometime. I don't know exactly when, but we'll see how people react to that. I know some people are saying they're gonna just not shop there, but that's good that you have those local shops you can support there, Sam. And got one more
Do you know what?
one from. Yeah, go ahead,
Go
Sam.
on. No.
Oh, I was just saying, Dolly's got this Jake balls. If you could explain the Jake ball.
Jake balls? A Jake ball? What's that? I don't know what she's on about.
Okay, maybe Dolly could explain then. What were you gonna say, Sam?
No, I'm saying I have changed. We will continue. I'll continue going to the farm shop because what I've realised is, they sell everything we need. They sell fresh food, fresh meat, fresh vegetables, fresh bread. You can get all that. We're eating better and probably spending less than going to a supermarket. You know, I just go every
Yeah.
3 days. I will carry on giving them my business. They're nice people, and the you can tell the difference in the taste of food.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah. And that's something too. I wish it was easier to find, particularly in bigger cities here in the States. You got to kind of look harder than if you were in the country, say. And it reminds me of being in Sicily or being Italy. It's so easy to find a local butcher shop, or a
yeah,
local farmers market in Sicily. I found it, and it's all local stuff, and I think it's really great to support people like that, especially nowadays with this pandemic and
well,
everything.
in our country, it's same here, mate.
Mm,
We're lucky we've got that, and I've got a local butchers. But when I lived in Manchester, very difficult to find a butcher's or like a greengrocers, away from supermarkets. They've all gone. They can't compete. So yeah, a
yeah,
sad
it's
state of
just
affairs. But
but that story you told about the mentally unwell lad and how that one officer was basically just really dismissive of all that work you put in and trying to get him calm. It reminds me of another story that you tell in your book, which I recommend people check out. And you got quite a few reviews on Amazon now, Sam. Last time
yeah,
I checked, 650 or 675 reviews.
it's
Most of
nearly
them
800 now.
Oh wow, really? That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
ticking
And
on nicely.
you spoke about how this one particular prisoner, his toddler died, his young daughter died,
Oh God.
and just this one
Yeah.
officer was just so like I don't even. It's sociopathic at least.
Right.
It's
Let me
just
tell you, Addy.
yeah.
Again, I never knew this prisoner's name. Right. It was his first time in prison. He got a 2 week sentence. That's all. 2 weeks. So he's probably going to be in a week. Yeah. He'd been in literally a day, and his missus contacted the prison and said his toddler died. So he's going to serve 7 days. He's been in a day. His toddler's died. Why the fuck did they not let him go? Why did somebody somewhere not say this guy's serving 7 days? He's just lost his child, a baby. Let him go. So when I went to the wing, this officer, I worked with him on K Wing. Yeah. He'd moved wings by now, like I had. I've got a lot of disdain for him. I'll try not, I'll try and be cool and professional about it. He talked to people like absolute shit. Yeah. He talked to staff like shit. and prisoners even worse. He was the sort of officer. I remember one lad coming up to me. He was an hard bastard. He was always, you know, a model prisoner. One of them that you definitely won't want to fight. You know, he was an hard bastard. He was well known on out, but he was a model prisoner. Always polite to all staff and that. And he come up to me one day, and he was absolutely. And I'd seen what had happened. He'd gone up and asked him, this officer, for something like an application, yeah. And we used to do applications. You had to have them in for 9 o'clock. So if you come to me at 8, I give you an application. It's all done on computer now, but you might ask for, I don't know, for emergency phone credit because your man was in hospital and you'd used all your credit. Yeah. So this lad had gone up to him with one of these applications to give it him, and he said, "Nah, fuck off, lad. We've done." "Oh, fuck off, lad. It's 9 o'clock. We've done." So this lad went, you know, could you please do this? It's important. Like, it's only 9 o'clock. The office clock said 9. He looked at his watch. He went, 15 seconds past. Fuck off. I've told you, go away. Now, this lad were absolutely steaming. How he didn't just knock him straight out, I don't know. So he went away, and then he come back to me, and I said, and I would do this. I am not covering for him. You know, you talk to people like shit. I'm not going to defend you. And he said, "What's his problem?" I said, "Well, he's got a problem, obviously, Annie. So, you know, if you ever want anything doing, I'm on. Come to me. If he's on with somebody else you can't go to, just save it till I come on, yeah." And I said to him, you know, come back in 10 minutes when he's gone, and I'll do your application. That's not me going, "Oh, look at me," or anything like that. That's decency, isn't it? So that officer was on the wing where this young lad had gone to. It was the detox wing. So he's gone in. When you go into prison, whether you're a regular prisoner or it's your first night, part of that first night in prison, you should get an induction. That's an officer sits down with you. So, Mr. Adiads, is it your first time in prison? Yeah. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Get your head down tonight. Tomorrow, you'll go to the induction wing. They'll tell you how to make phone calls, how to write letters, how to, you know, that's what it is. It's basically settling someone down, reassuring them they're going to be all right, telling them, you know, the next day they'll start the induction process. So this lad hasn't had a first night. That's a no-no, that, you know, it's a big no-no. The chaplain has gone to see him and told him that his child has died. Yeah, on the wing. So when the chaplain's gone, the chaplain has told the wing staff, you know, you've got a prisoner whose young child has died. Now, I don't know. Most of the people I work with, most of them, even the bad ones, would understand that and be understanding. But the staff on that wing that day were, you know, the worst, the lowest of the low. So they'd locked him up. He got no phone credit, no access to anyone. He's just been told his child's dead. And he started kicking off like you would, kicking his door. Yeah. Basically, they gave him nothing. They wrote him off. So when I went to the wing to pick him up for this escort, because I don't know, someone volunteered me to go on this funeral escort, the lad wasn't there. How they spoke about him, you know, this officer's telling me, "Oh, he's a scumbag. He's been kicking his door all night," or whatever. He's in the chapel now. I said to him, his kid's died. His child's 6-month-old or whatever's died. He went, "That's not my fucking problem." So, you know, that's just how it is. That weren't a good day. The funeral escort itself weren't a good day. The staff that were on it with me were dogs. Absolute dogs. At the funeral side, at the side of the grave, I've never seen a child buried before. Tiny, tiny coffin. Yeah. There's this guy, I'm cuffed to the guy. Yeah. his missus, his partner, is opposite with like maybe a mum or somebody. There's the vicar, there's about 6 of us at the graveside. They're burying a 6-month-old child. It was terrible. She's looking at him, he's looking at her. They obviously loved each other. They've lost the child. He's got about 3 days to serve. You know, I do not understand that part of it at all. But then, you know, the vicar is doing his best job. Obviously, it's not a good situation. And the van, which is like 40 meters away, they're having a smoke and laughing and joking. That's all I can hear. You know, Vickers, you know, bless his child, they're doing that. And all I can hear, these fucking idiots laughing and joking. Seriously. This is what I'm saying about that job. When I think about that funeral, it was incredibly sad. How they treated that lad was incredible. You know, it's just poor. And that's not just me at it. You can see yourself, mate. Fucking let him go. Let him grieve or whatever. He doesn't need to be locked up 3 more days. But them staff, they were just dogs, absolute dogs. So it was a bad day. I'd never been to a child's funeral before. It was a bad experience. And this is what I always say. Made worse by the scumbag officers who were on that escort with me. Yeah. No dignity. You know, they could have sat on van, shut doors and just, you know, kept quiet. But all you could hear were them laughing and joking. Terrible. On the way there, we were late leaving the prison. I remember this as well. On the way there, we were late. So the driver says to the guy in charge of the escort, you know, we need to get off. We're going to get stuck in traffic. Do you know what he said? I don't care. It's not my fucking funeral. That's in front of the lad. I'm cuffed to the lad whose 6-month-old child's died. And this prick says, I don't fucking care. It's not my funeral. You know, that's just lower than low. Yeah. So that's why I will never, ever, you know, prison officer, it's not a professional job. I work with some professionals. I work with some fantastic people. And people always have to remember that. Yeah. I work with some fantastic people, but there were some absolute dogs as well. It winds me up. Even now, it's still, you know, gets me angry.
Well, I think knowing that despite that there were and are still, even if they're a minority, you know, prison officers like you, Sam, I think that gives people hope for sure. Because I think for people with certain upbringings too, it's really hard to fathom that level of callousness and almost sadomasochism too. It's really borderline, like, you know, sadomasochism. But it reminds me of this interview I saw recently with this minister from Canada. His name is Kevin Annett, and he said he's probably late 50s now, I would guess. But he said that he used to believe that people were born good, and he says he no longer believes that now. He thinks that like a soul, or your soul, has to be kind of like worked on, and I kind of think of it like maybe like a blade or some sort of blacksmith work, where you have to, you know, work on it and sharpen it and keep it sharp. Which, you know, I think I used to believe that too, that people were born good, but like I also used to believe in karma too, and I no longer believe in karma just because of stuff I've read about with history and stuff. But we are getting to the top of the hour here, Sam, and I just wanted to ask if you had any closing thoughts before we sign off. Maybe something a little uplifting, because we have been.
Yeah, let's basically. What day are we on, Addy? Wednesday. When do you want to chat again, mate?
I'm good whenever you are, Sam. If you want to go Friday or this weekend.
Yeah, we'll do the weekend, mate. Listen, there is still good people in the prison service. I've said this before. Yeah, you put bad people in or good people in bad places to become bad. But there's no excuse. Look at the 2 guys I've just talked about. you know, the guy who had got no time for anyone, and the guy at the funeral. There's people who thought they were good officers, not me. That's why I was always banging my head with establishment. And that's why I will never, you know, it is a tough job, but there's no excuse for people like that. However, I think of some of the people who were the most unlikely prison officers. You know, some of the lasses I worked with who were fantastic. People who were never suited to that job. They didn't have interpersonal skills. They had no presence, but they still used to do the job to their, you know, best of their ability or whatever. So, as it is now, prison officers, they need to be on the same team. You know, instead of all these little reform groups wanting their own bite of the cherry and we want to make this better, and they need to be on the same team. You need enough staff to get the prisoners out, start building them relationships. So, you know, I am hopeful. We can talk next time. I've got some fantastic contacts now. I'm going to be doing what I really want to do, which is educating kids. And if we can, we'll talk about a little bit about the podcast I'm going to be starting, Addy.
Yeah, definitely, Sam.
And which and also I spoke to a really, really young man. He's only 23 who wants to tell his story on my podcast. Yeah. You know, he had some mental health problems around 17, 18. He tried to take his own life and that. And in 5 years, he's sort of turned himself around. But are you ready for this? He stalked us, mate. He's watched end to end every single episode we've ever done. He says, I sat down the other day. I didn't know about the Addy ads. He says, I've watched them all.
Wow, that's awesome. That feels so good to know that somebody's tuned in like that. And shout out to Dolly Rex too. His name's Cameron.
Dolly. Yeah, Cameron. Yeah, Cameron. He's only a young lad, 23. You know, he's sort of he's planning ahead for his future. He's got ambition. He's a good lad. You know, and they're the sort of people that I want to be interviewing. You know, people who and 5 years to going from suicidal to sort of, you know, really good. So yeah, all good stuff, mate. Yeah.
To end on for sure. Thanks, Sam. Shout out again to Cameron for tuning in, and everybody else for tuning into this episode of Across the Pond with Ads and Big Sam Samworth from Yorkshire, England. And we will be broadcasting again sometime this weekend. Stay frosty, folks, and until next time.
Check it.